My dad and I are building a vocal recording booth in my bedroom, and this is part 2, the frame. What's the frame?
Basically, the frame is the skeleton that holds everything together.
So right now we're looking for the studs that are essentially holding up all of the walls. We have these 2x6s that we're using for the floor, and we have these 2x4s that we're using for the walls. Juanito, how are you feeling about this frame? What? I can't hear you. So we're about to cut these studs into 6 feet long studs, and these will form the base of the vocal booth. I've never used a saw like this before, but my dad's gonna teach me, So once all of it is done, this is about how much space we'll have inside the actual vocal booth. And from the interior, it's about 55 inches long. However, from the exterior, the vocal booth will actually be wider because we'll be using plywood, foam, wool, and other materials that will help with sound isolation. So the wooden studs ended up being too heavy for what we wanted to do, but we're gonna try metal beams instead. In total, when we use the metal beams instead of the wooden beams, it comes out to be like 100, 200 pounds lighter. Now we're installing the floor. So we were assembling the frame and we found out that one of the legs, this one over here, well, it's not there anymore, was 1/8 of an inch too long. So we unscrewed it and now we're gonna cut off that 1/8 of an inch so that it can be perfectly symmetrical. So this is the mass loaded vinyl, and when we put it through this, it's gonna be really great for sound insulation. Look at that! How you feeling, Papito?
Tired, so.
And now we're gonna use some acoustic sound sealant to seal the sound. Now we're screwing in this plank on top of it. After that, we'll put the walls and put the door on the side. So one of the bigger obstacles that we're finding while making this vocal booth is ventilation. Ventilation is important because without it, the booth can overheat and the vocalist inside can't breathe. And so the solution to that is finding a ventilation tube like this. The reason why this is a difficult obstacle is because if we don't do it correctly, then the booth becomes less sound isolated because sound is traveling through those ventilation channels. So now we're putting a hole in the wood so that we can actually have that ventilation tube. Where's the hole going?
Right here.
It's looking really pretty. This is upside down. Now we're screwing in the metal beams so that we can place the walls.
If you notice, I'm going to be able to screw this one here, but not the other ones.
Now that we have most of the materials we need, we learned that the 2 side walls and the back wall of the vocal booth would be too heavy to carry back to my room because of the materials on them. Because they're holding the mass-loaded vinyl, the acoustic foam, 2 layers of plywood panels, and metal beams. So instead of treating them as 3 walls, we are dividing them into 8 sections. Now what the sections will look like are essentially each panel, 2 of them being on the back wall, and if you follow me here, 3 more in the long walls. And to better explain what I mean, this is what I mean. So you see, this was 1 section, the 2nd section, and the 3rd section will be here, and there will be 2 more sections here, and that makes it a lot more manageable. It's coming together slowly but surely.